Hi there, Scott Hamilton, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review for your ears. Going to be talking about it's either a 2020 or a 2021 film, Riders of Justice. The short version of the review is, if you looked at the cover of the Blu-Ray, you would think this was Mads Mikkelsen starring in a new version of Mad Max with motorcycles and explosions in the background. Also the tagline, "Someone is going to pay." It's not that kind of movie. And it's really great. It's actually one of the best movies I've seen in the last couple years. There were tears at the end. I'm not kidding. You should watch it. Okay, that's the short version. I kind of knew what I was getting into. This made it on a lot of year-end lists. Mads Mikkelsen made two movies in 2020 that made it over to the U.S. in 2021. One was the movie about drinking, and this one, Riders of Justice, which honestly looks like your typical revenge flick. Guy's in the military, guy loses his wife, guy investigates who's responsible and goes to make them pay. That's the setup. That's not the movie you get. The writer-director actually, this is a Danish movie. It's subtitled. I watched it in Danish with the subtitles on, but there is an English dub if you want to go that way. Anders Thomas Jensen. He wrote and directed the movie. I don't know what the budget is. I don't know too much about it. There wasn't too much on Wikipedia about it. It's on a whole bunch of year-end lists. And I'll tell you why without getting into spoilers. If this movie feels like anything, it feels like a James Gunn movie. I just reviewed Peacemaker the other night and did a podcast. And then I watched this and I'm like, well, you kind of have a group of quirky characters, and they all have character arcs, and there's some real emotion to the action, but it's over the top violence when the violence happens. It has a lot in common with a James Gunn movie or TV show, actually, and I would say hits harder emotionally. Just like I said in Peacemaker, they get emotional things out of things you don't expect. In Peacemaker, I commented on the beard gag. This one is a few other things. You just, you think you're going to get this Rambo-esque, Taken kind of revenge flick, and there's a mystery to it. There's some morals to it. There's humor juxtaposed horror and violence and depressing things. But then they find humor, they seamlessly flow. Much like I said in the Peacemaker review, balance. This movie is a miracle of balance in all the right ways. In other hands, this movie would not have played out the same way, would not have felt the same way, and would not have hit you as hard at the end. Again, I will keep this as spoiler-free as I can, but the movie starts at Christmas time and ends, it's still Christmas time. You kind of forget that with what's going on. It's not really about that. But the way it ends, man, this is one of my favorite Christmas movies. It's not like anything else I've seen. Matter of fact, guys that get paid a lot more than I do have already reviewed this movie. So there are these blurbs on the Blu-ray box. Screen International says salty, violent, transgressive, button-pushing, non-PC. San Francisco Chronicle, Mikkelsen is magnificent. Joe Blow Movie Network, thoroughly original, action-packed. Rolling Stone calls it thrilling. And the biggest one on the front is the Wall Street Journal. One of the most fascinating films I've seen in a long while. That's right under Someone is Going to Pay. So yes, Mads Mikkelsen stars in this. He's flipping amazing in everything he's in. I think he was the best Hannibal. That's including Anthony Hopkins. I think most of the other movies he's been in, he's elevated the movie with his performance, whether it be a drama, a sci-fi movie, an action movie, a horror film, whatever. Again, he disappears into the role. He's got close-shaved hair and a giant beard, and he's in the military, and it just doesn't look like Mads, but the eyes and his emoting. And like I said, the whole idea of the movie, like no spoilers. You really need to enjoy this movie for what it is, as it hits you. Don't read up on this. Watch this movie. I'm telling you, it affected me. I've just finished it a few minutes ago. I had to compose myself before I come do a podcast about it. There's a scene very early in the movie. Like I said, the movie is about he's working and loses his wife. And he has a daughter, and he has to come home. And he wants to see his wife, and they highly recommend he does not. It was a train accident. And he looks. And I love the restraint of the director. We don't see anything but the look on his face as he sees it, as he pulls back the cover and looks. What an actor. I mean, Mads Mikkelsen is flippin' amazing. And what he does in this film, it's not like the Mads I've seen before. He's crafted another character that is just wow. And then there's this 1, 2, 3 punch at the end where you think it's going to end a certain way, and then you think it's going to end another way, and then it ends, and then it's like, oh, and then there's an oh. Like I said, no spoilers, but I was emotionally affected. I watch a lot of movies, people, several hundred a year, at least a couple hundred a year. Out of 365 days, yeah, I'd say probably 2/3 of the year I watch a movie as my entertainment. I don't watch much TV or anything else. I do play some video games, but I'm working a lot and exploring Alaska a little bit. So watching as many movies as I do, a lot of them I go, that's good. You know, that was really good. I'll do a podcast about it. Oh, that wasn't so good. Okay, yeah, that was kind of boring, and I got through it. If you want to hear one of my few, I don't do very many negative reviews unless it's something that, you know, should have been good or there's a good reason to do one. I have a Kingsman review that's going to post, or probably already has posted. You should check that out. It was not a very good movie, and I love everybody involved in it, but it just didn't come together. This one did. I mean, I would hope for a U.S. remake, much like The Trip. If you haven't listened to that podcast yet, that was another foreign film that will most certainly get a U.S. remake, but they'll have to change the end. It's very American. Anyway, to make it funny, I don't know how they would. Somebody smarter than me will have to make it funnier, I guess. Same with this one. The story should be in the English language. More people need to see the story. If you enjoyed things like Peacemaker, if you're not squeamish about violence, if you think you want to watch a revenge movie that's elevated, that is not just your typical revenge movie, has some moral quality to it, has some great acting in it, some super cinematography, some really funny stuff. I laughed out loud by myself watching this movie. Of all the movies I've watched in the last couple of years, this one brought emotional responses out of me, and I can say that for only a handful of those movies that I've watched. It's just that good. And if I didn't do a top 10 or 20 or 21 of 21. I should have, and maybe I still will. Why not? A lot was going on in my life the last 6 months or so. But as things kind of return to a bit of normality, I'm getting these podcasts done on a regular basis. I can revisit some things and do some other things. But anyway, you really need to check this movie out. Seek it out. I don't know what it's streaming on. I've had the Blu-ray in my wish list for several months, and it dropped to a price that I didn't mind paying. And I had read enough good reviews about it. Now, I have taken chances on movies like that before. And I got lucky with, just take the Kingsman for, I'm not picking on the Kingsman. It's actually a very well-made movie. It's just not what you want from a Kingsman movie, and that's why it fails. It just wasn't funny. And Kingsman movies have to be funny almost above all, I think. But anyway, maybe that's me putting my expectations on a film. And so sometimes I take a chance, and I take them a lot less these days because I've been burned so many times. I read all these reviews, how great a movie is, and then I watch it, and it's this slow burn thing where the last 2.5 minutes are amazing, but man, it was 2 hours to get there, and I don't know that it was worth the journey, that kind of thing. But this is one of those that had enough critical acclaim that I'm like, okay, it really sounds like something I like, and it's Mads. And every time I've taken a chance on one of his movies I didn't think I would like some of his dramas. There was one, he's a school teacher accused of touching a student, and it's kind of ambiguous if he did or not, but you're pretty sure he didn't. And how the town reacts and everything. That's just a pretty straight up drama. And he was flipping amazing in it. So was the movie. I'm sorry the name of it's escaping me, but another foreign film. But anyway, he's great in everything. And this just, wow. It's not what you expect. By the cover, you think you're getting a Sylvester Stallone revenge flick. It is not. He's great. The entire cast is great. The comedy is great. The heartfelt stuff is great. Yeah, I had to clean myself up at the end. There were even some tears. I'm not kidding. And in a positive way. I am so glad I took a chance and spent $10 on this movie. I will be happy to watch it again at some point. I did not try the English dub. I don't know how close it is. They could have gotten Mads Mikkelsen to do his own voice. That'd be cool if they did. One thing of note on the Blu-ray release, this is a regular Blu-ray release. There wasn't a 4K in this country. It comes with a DTS HD 5.1 mix that's actually really good. A lot of times when I watch a foreign film, subtitled, I don't have it cranked up as loud as I would like a Marvel movie or an American action thriller or whatever. Just because I don't have to hear it as loud, I'm not really worried about the dialogue, because that's a lot of reason why today you crank up a movie. I can't hear what they're saying, and everything else gets a lot louder because of it. But with foreign films, I'm watching subtitles, so I don't really need to know what they say, and I don't have it as loud because the mix is not usually, something that demands my attention. Early on, this was a very spatial, atmospheric, detailed soundtrack, good music, good surround sound cues. It really does add a dimensionality to the movie. So if you have a surround sound setup, I would highly recommend watching it that way. In the original Danish DTS 5.1. It was good. Like I said, I should have, but I didn't try the English version. There were no extras on the disc, and that's really unfortunate, because this is one I'd sit down and I would watch every extra on it to see how they did some things. The effects are mostly practical. There's a couple times people get shot in the face, and I don't think it was like they shot blood in their face. I think it had to be CG'd, but you can't really tell. There's some great action scenes with him. I'm glad he can still do those. He plays a dude from the military. He's pretty big. He's got the big beard and, the shaved head, and he's pretty tough looking. And, man, what a surprise. Just like the Wall Street Journal said, fascinating, one of the biggest surprises. Yes, could not agree more. It's something to watch again and get more out of. And I don't want to make this sound like it's Citizen Kane of movies, but there's more going on here than just an action flick, and it's really good. The stuff with him and his daughter is great. The stuff with all the other characters is great. The quirky cast that he works with. I mean, it's just surprising. You think it's going to go one way, and it goes a different way. It pulls back when you don't think it's going to. It goes forward when you don't think it's going to. And when it gets violent, it gets really violent, and it's like, yeah. It feels like a James Gunn movie in a lot of ways, so check it out. Riders of Justice, Mads Mikkelsen. It was released I think the Danish version came out in 2020. That's the copyright on it. It didn't get a U.S. release until 2021. Here I am in February of 2022 finally watching it. It's one of my favorite movies of last year. Wow, what a great, surprising film for just about anybody. If you're squeamish about violence, you may not enjoy it, but I think everybody else. It runs under 2 hours. It moves very quickly. Enjoy Riders of Justice. Mads Mikkelsen does it again. It's a great flick. I'm Scott Hamilton. I'm ROCKFILE. Thanks for checking out this podcast and all the others. My Podbean account says I have over 400 podcasts, but please keep in mind that the first 35 were interviews I had done with rock stars, and I kind of loaded the channel with those, so I didn't start those at 1. The first podcast was about 36, so I started with the number there, and that's why when you see numbers on my podcast, they don't equate with what it says or in my podcast account, no matter where you're listening to this podcast. And you can listen to it just about anywhere there are podcasts. Thank you so much for streaming it or downloading it and making it a part of your day. I hope to have some more very interesting content coming your way very soon. Thank you for listening.